what is going on in the world, what we want to highlight, and what is aligned with our mission. So I want to go over some of our programming. On Sunday, we have our bi-weekly community gathering. It's called Gaza on Our Mind. We started hosting Gaza on Our Mind sometime around June last year. The main point of it when we started was to create a space for people to come and sing their song of solidarity with the people of Palestine. Throughout the time, it has evolved into becoming a forum for discussion. A lot of great ideas, great speakers, great musicians have graced us in that, and we have evolved into including Haiti, Congo, Sudan, and we want to make sure that we highlight these areas that the mainstream media might not be covering as much as they should. And all donations collected will go to WPFW radio station and their fight and struggle and to stand in solidarity with them because we have to support each other. So please, if you can, we will have author Miko Peled, an Israeli who is in the fight with the people of Palestine, and we will have Dr. Jihan El Bayoumi here. So that's what we have coming up. Next Saturday at 2 p.m., we will be restarting Happy Nappy Storytelling. We will have Mama Busaina and Alefia, and they will be bringing to life the Galagachi tale in the time of the drums. There will be live drumming here. So yes, we will have that next Sunday, 2 p.m. to next Saturday, sorry, 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. And in the evening, we will have author Kellis Rowe in conversation with a young adult writer by the name of Brianna Pepins, and they will be in conversation regarding her book, Finding Jupiter. And on Sunday, on the 27th of April, we will have Joseph Fan Fan Lewis, a beloved Haitian musician, guitar player who I got to know when he performed at our Haiti on Our Mind event. He will be performing here live starting 7 p.m. Tickets are $10. Uh, we have many, many more events, and I want to tell you about each and every one of them, but I know we don't have the time. So I will kindly invite author Renee and Shawneesa to the stage. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for attending this important conversation because Renee is going to give us all the gems on how to nourish and protect our Black and Brown bodies. So let's get started. All right, Renee. So you caught me at affordable, the title. Affordable. Exactly. Clap for that. Clap for that. Especially during this time. Affordable, healthy food. So share with us a little bit about what inspired you to write the book.
Thank you, Shawneesa. And let me just say how happy I am to be here at Sankofa because I love this bookstore. I come here often, and I'm just honored that they saw fit to have me come and discuss what I feel is a very important topic. And thank you, Shawneesa, for coming out and doing this. So what inspired me to write the book was that I had been working as a community dietitian for over 20 years. And I had seen several people, thousands, hundreds, if not thousands of people who had actually, they were on limited budgets. They didn't have a lot of money per se, or maybe they did have a certain amount of money, but they didn't want to spend their entire paycheck on food. And so they were able to make things work. They were achieving their health goals within their budgets, even if they didn't have a lot. And in the process of me working with them and talking to them, I learned a lot from them. I think they learned a lot from me. I think I have a little bit of expertise with my background, but I think I learned a lot from them as well. So I took that on when the prices of food started going up. I knew I had like this bank of knowledge in the back of my head, and I said, you know what? I think this is the time to take all that information and put it in a book that I think would be useful for people. And also, as a nutrition counselor and nutrition educator, it was really important for me to highlight some of the questions that I would get often when I would go and teach, and when I would work with my clients one on one. And so a lot of what's in the book is that information, those specific questions that I would get frequently. So yeah, so that was the big inspiration.
You definitely highlighted the point of food prices increasing, but also this current political climate with a lot of people are losing their jobs, going through these difficult times. So this book is very, very much needed. So we truly appreciate you for creating such an amazing resource. Now, how would you define healthy?
So thank you for asking that, because I put a section in there. The first section of the book is about what it means to be healthy, because I feel like so many of us have different definitions of what that looks like. So when it comes to food, I would say that it's healthy food is any food that promotes optimal health, not just promotes optimal health, but at the same time does not do any harm. Because I think there are certain foods that have specific ingredients, and it may have, these good, and those ingredients are highlighted, but then there are other ingredients that also may be harmful. So, for example, everybody asks me, I get this question all the time. Well, what do you think about beef? What do you think about red meat and steak? And I say, I would not categorize that as healthy per se, per the definition, because there are elements of that beef that will do harm. So there's the good part, there's the protein, you're going to get good sources of iron, it's a good source of iron. They're good parts, but there's that harmful part, right? You have saturated fats. It's there's study after study that shows that it's connected to the more beef consumption that you have, it's connected to higher cancer rates. So there's that element. So I wouldn't put that in the healthy bracket. So basically, any food that contributes to that promotes optimal health, but at the same time does not do any harm.
And can you elaborate a little bit on optimal health? Because you highlight that a lot in your book.
So optimal health is, so there's many aspects, right, to our individualism and our physical beings and our emotional beings and our mental beings, right? So optimal health means that you're achieving a certain level of satisfaction, optimal satisfaction, right, in your life in each one of those areas, right? So you're taking your physical health, and you're able to process what you're doing. You're able to process that food that you're consuming in a way that says, my body is going to do well by this food, and this food is going to do well by my body. So just making sure that you're in a place where your body is feeling good, you're not tired all the time, you have a strong, you're not having to go to the doctors often, you don't have to take medications, and a lot of that has to do with our capacity to incorporate our mental health, our emotional health, our spiritual health. It all comes together into one big picture. So yeah.
I love that. That was definitely, like I mentioned, highlighted and an important part of the book. So wanted to get that elaborated a little bit. So we appreciate you. Now, mentioning optimal health and how there's so many different domains associated with health, even mental, there's also social peace, physical health, things of that nature. What are some of the takeaways you want people to gain from this book?
So the biggest thing, I like to call myself the evangelist for healthy food being affordable. So the biggest takeaway would be that it is possible for you to achieve optimal health. Um, and I think when people hear achieving optimal health, they're thinking, I have to change everything all at once. Like I have to stop sugar, I have to stop red meat, I have to stop all of that all at once. And one of the things I highlight in the book, as you know, is that it's okay to take steps, right? It's okay to take, if you say, this week, The step I'm going to take today is I'm going to add a fruit to my diet. I'm just going to add a fruit every day to my diet. And then I'm going to next week add on to that, right? So taking steps, increments is really important to achieving optimal health because we know the research shows that when you try to do it all at once, it's not sustainable. But we know that if you do it step by step, we know that you're going to be more successful over the long term. So that's another point I would say is making sure that you give yourself grace in that process, and it's okay that your diet is not perfect. I've been doing this for over 20 years. My diet is still not perfect, but and it's okay. But the point is, again, to get back to optimal is, are you in a place where you feel good and you feel like you can, another thing I forgot to mention, are you fulfilling the purpose you felt like you were put on this earth to fulfill, right? Like, if you don't have your health, it's hard for you to do that. So once you put the things in your body that can give you that optimal feeling, that optimal not just physical feeling, but emotional and spiritual and mental well-being, that will help you to achieve much that purpose that I believe that we all have. So having that is really important. So those are the biggest things I think I would like people to take away.
Love that, love that. So during you all's transformation, remember the two G's: gradual and grace. Gradual and grace. Okay. All righty.
I like that.
Okay, so to share with us one health recommendation that individuals in the audience today can make to help them achieve optimal health. One of your favorite ones that you share with your clients.
Okay, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to give you two because I want to do a mental health one. I want to do a physical one. So I think it's really important for us to, and I have a section in the book that's part 4 is focus mainly on taking care of yourself. So my first recommendation would be to do an assessment of where you are mentally and how are you taking care of yourself. The more we look at ourselves and take a moment, stop and look at where we are mentally and evaluate if there's something that we can do to make ourselves feel better and be more empowered, the more we're able to make better decisions, right? When we're stressed out all the time, when we're not taking care of ourselves, we know this, there's scientific literature to show this. We know that we're not going to make the best decisions, right? So when we stop for a minute, take time, and I have lots of activities on how you can do that in the book, and think about, how can I take care of myself? What am I doing to take care of myself right now? And really think about that. And then I think that will help you to make a lot of choices in your life um, that will promote optimal health. Now, the physical thing in terms of nutrition and health, I'm going to cheat again because I think there's 3 things that you can do easily right away that will right away like empower you. 1, drink water. Just drink water. Just do it. Even if you have to cut if you're used to drinking something like soda or iced tea or whatever, cut it with water. You just have soda, half water. You're gonna do your body so much good. Like, it's just not even, like, I don't think people realize the importance of that water. The other thing is green leafy vegetables. We want to talk about affordable. You can go to the grocery store and you can get kale for, last time I saw it was like $1.89 for a big bunch. So you can make like 4 or 5, maybe even 6 salads with one $2 bundle of kale or collard greens, using collard greens as a wrap or something like that. So however you can get those leafy vegetables into your diet, very powerful. The greener the better. And let me say this about iceberg lettuce. It's not the greenest. And because it's not the greenest, I hear all the time, iceberg lettuce is bad for me. No, it is not. It is so good for us. It has vitamin K, it has fiber, it has all these things that are good for our digestive tract. So, yes, iceberg lettuce is good for you. The reason why kale and the collard greens and the mustard greens and all those get more attention is because, yeah, they have more nutrition. So, yeah, let's do that. But if you only have access to the iceberg lettuce, that is perfectly fine. It's very good for you and it's going to do your body good. And then the other thing I'm going to say is if you can eat berries. I cannot emphasize to you how powerful berries are. Now, I know what you're thinking. Berries are expensive. But if you buy them in season, they're not as expensive. And if you break it down per serving, it only comes to like 75, depending on the berry, 75 cents to $1 per serving. Also, I want to promote the frozen berries. Frozen berries are good for you too. Don't be afraid just because they're frozen. They're not obviously the fresh, not obviously, but the fresh vegetables are going to fruits and vegetables are going to be your best option. But frozen berries are very good for you, and I have like a bag of freezer like with 4 bags of of frozen. My husband is back there. He knows. I have a bag of with 4 bags of frozen berries and fruits for smoothies and things like that. And it's like $3 a bag, and you get these like big bags. And the organic is even affordable. So berries, green leafy vegetables, and water, if you can get that in, are really powerful and simple things you can do just right off the bat. So
I need you to call my husband and let him know the iceberg lettuce is good because that's like a big debate in our household. Like, I need you to call him after this.
everywhere, it's like, no, where did this come from? I don't know, but
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, don't eat that. I'm like, I will.
same with corn. Corn is good for you. Potatoes are also good for you. Those are the 3 things that people say, I don't want to eat because they're not good for me. And it's like, no, they're actually very good for you. They have fiber.
I think it's about the overconsumption and the portion control.
Absolutely. And how it's prepared, right? French fries and, fried and dyed and dipped to the side. So,
For a while, some years ago, maybe even 3 or 4 years ago, they were talking about corn with being plastic being put in food. So I think that's what
Yeah.
a lot of people away from corn.
Yeah.
Me being one of them, it's like plastic.
No.
But I don't even know how true that is.
No, and
You know how people
yeah, there may be some of that going on, but in general, corn is very, very good for you. And also one of the I talk about this in a book. It's one of the clean 15, which is the 15 vegetables with the least amount of pesticides. So even if you don't buy the organic versions, it's going to not have as many pesticides. You have to worry about GMOs because corn is one of the few vegetables is genetic modified, but in general, corn is okay. Corn is very good for you.
people say GMO, then they're talking about, okay, they're using plastic.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't hear about the plastic, so yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm thinking, would you recommend going to farmers market to gain certain nutritional items such as corn? We got fruits, vegetables, things like that to kind of have for us to have a peace of mind.
Absolutely. If you can do a farmer's market, do the farmer's market. With the farmer's market, which is kind of why I didn't really approach it in this book, is because the farmer's market can be a little more expensive. Even though you are going to get the optimal quality, more than likely it's not going to be GMO. And like I said, corn in general doesn't have as many pesticides as other vegetables, so you don't really have to worry too much about pesticides being in the corn. But yes, if you can go to the farmers market for the optimal quality, do it by all means, for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. We appreciate it. And as we're talking about extra ingredients being added to our vegetables and fruits, can you talk a little bit about reading nutritional labels and ingredients? Because oftentimes I know when I'm shopping, I would see organic plastic on the plastic, but the reality is when I turn it over and read the facts and the ingredients, not so organic at all.
Yes, yes, and yes. Okay, so a few things I want to say about the nutrition facts panel. Um, One is that there's a lot of information on there, and I think when I teach my classes or work one on one with my clients, they are very good at seeing the what's basic the what's basically on there the oh my gosh, I'm sorry. So if you see the carbohydrates and it says 4 grams of carbohydrates, it's very simple to recognize that there's four grams of carbohydrates in that particular food. Sodium, just like that. A lot of people they say, "Oh, I look at the sodium, I look at the calories, and I look at whatever else is important to them, specifically if they have a specific health condition." What they don't pay attention to a lot of times is the serving size, right? A lot of times, most times, you're going to have 4, or 5 servings in that particular food item. You want to pay attention to how many servings is in that particular food item and how large the serving size is, right? Cereal, for example. We pour our bowls of cereal. We don't pay any attention. We fill the whole bowl up, right?
You predict that cup.
If you look at the serving size for most cereals, it's 3/4 of a cup. So that's like it could fit in your hand, or even right, or a little coffee cup or something like that. That's even too big, I think. So you when you look at the nutrition facts panel, it's going to say it might say 200 calories for that one serving, but if you're pouring 3 and 4 servings into your cup, you're going to be getting 800 calories. So right? So you want to pay attention to how much what that serving size is. That's really important. There's a lot more about the nutrition facts label I want to talk about, but I'm going to leave that to the book because you can get that from the book. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the ingredients list.
Yeah.
Pay attention to the ingredients list. I don't know if you know the medical journalist, Michael Pollan, or the nutrition journalist. I'm not sure of his exact title, but he wrote a multitude of books, and he talked about reading the nutrition facts panel, or when you look at the ingredients list, if there's something on there that your grandmother or your great grandmother wouldn't recognize, then stay away from it. I say if you don't recognize it, right, then stay away from it. Because there's a lot of ingredients in there that we just don't. It's so many things, right? Exactly. So that goes back to the fresh fruits and fresh vegetables and sticking with as much whole foods as much as possible. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Slight question, because you mentioned cereal. Could you give us some healthy cereals, please? At least two.
Okay, so I do not promote eating cereals.
Okay.
I'm glad to get a hand clap for that. I thought I was going to get crucified. Okay. They're all very highly processed, except oatmeal. Hot oatmeal. You got this. Granola can be okay. You just have to really pay attention to the sugar in there. So you can make your own granola.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Exactly. Okay.
I definitely do that.
Yeah. Exactly. So you can make your own granola. Millet, I don't know if anybody's ever tried millet, but you can make millet and you can use that as a breakfast and add some berries, some little bit of whatever kind of milk you drink and do that type of thing. So yeah. So if you do want to eat cereal, I would say, and this is something I talk about in the book, make rules for yourself, right? Like, so I know some of my clients, they'll say, I'm just gonna, if it has more than 200 milligrams of sodium, not gonna pull it per serving, right? Or if it has more than 10 grams of sugar per serving, I'm not gonna do that. So establish rules for yourself in terms of how you're going to choose your cereals. There's some cereals that don't have any sugar, like I think like grape nuts, those types of things. So there's some, and then also fiber. Look at the fiber. If it has a lot of fiber, that's another good thing. A lot of rules. Some people say, I want a cereal with at least 5 grams of fiber. So just set rules for yourself. And also, again, I talk more about that in the book. So.
And also, I feel like being aware of how your body's reacting to these foods. Like if you are really intentional about sitting, eating, I don't know, that burger and really sitting and seeing how much damage it's doing. Because I know for me, I no longer eat red meat, and it's been years, but I know that. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I don't eat red meat, but I think the second year in, I went to a wedding and they had like slabs of meat, a lot. Made a mistake, did that, had a great time, got really, really sick, never turned back. Exactly. And I felt it at the time. I was in my 20s, so I was being grown. College student too. So like free food, meat, let's do it. But I felt my body responding to it at the time. I didn't listen until right before my flight. I was down, like down bad. Like it was really bad, I think for about 2 days. So I definitely want to encourage everyone to truly listen to your body and how they're responding to these foods that you're putting in your system. You'll have some really amazing responses with the foods that you recommend in your book. You may have the not so good responses when you talk about cereals, the candies, the processed stuff. So be intentional about sitting and actually noting the responses when you are consuming these foods.
And to add to that, even if it is the healthy stuff, because sometimes your body might react differently to different fruits and vegetables and even whole foods. So yes, paying attention to your body is very important.
Now I thought you were clapping, sorry. But you offer several activities in the book. Can you talk about the one you think is the most important?
Okay, I'm going to cheat on this question again, but I think the one I'm going to take from part 3 of the book, which is the self-care book. And one of the activities is I ask you to sit and think about how you talk to yourself about yourself. And just sit and think about that and evaluate it. Like, is it encouraging? Is it empowering? Or is it discouraging? Is it building your confidence? Is it tearing down your confidence? A lot of times we talk about ourselves and we're, oh, you're such an idiot. Oh, you did this. And we're beating ourselves up. And that sets the tone for the rest of our day and how we're going to be throughout the day, right? So if we can shift that, whatever it is, if it is not empowering, if it is not confidence building, if we can shift that, make a shift to speaking what I call healing words to ourselves, about ourselves, consistently, all the time. Doesn't matter if I made a mistake, doesn't matter if I ate the wrong thing, doesn't matter if I said the wrong thing to the wrong person. I can go back and apologize. I can go back and eat those berries. If I ate the wrong thing, I can do something to undo what I did before. And even if I can't, it's okay. And build yourself up, because again, that's going to set you up for not just how you are throughout the day, but also the food choices that you make, right? And so that's really important. Lots of other activities that will help you with your with making better food choices in there, but that's one of them. And I wanted to highlight that one because I don't think we often connect that to our food choices. So I wanted to highlight that one. But like in terms of the nutrition aspect of things, one of the things, and I want to highlight this one because I get this question a lot, is how much protein do I need? So there is an activity in the book where you can actually calculate how much protein you need for your particular size, right? So it's diet. It's like you have your own personal dietitian. I'm telling you, it's the inside stuff. Yeah. So if you, and there's a lot of information about protein and the importance of protein, how much our bodies needs, what happens when we don't get enough. So I would say those are two really important activities that I think will really be practical for us to use.
Gotcha.
Because that can cause a lot of emotional eating.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Emotional eating because you're stressed out.
Absolutely. She said it can cause emotional eating because you're stressed out. Exactly. Yep.
Absolutely.
So your age, are you, with regards to, okay, should we save that for later, or should we just go ahead and tackle that now?
What do you think?
We'll tackle it now? Okay. So I put some aging tips in the book. The biggest thing with when you're aging is not always just the food. We know it's the food, but it's the socialization, right? It's the, are you sleeping okay? It's the, are you working with other people, or are you feeling like you're a part of society? Are you still socializing? I guess I said that already. Mm-hmm. So taking care of that is very important because it, again, leads back to your food choices and what you're going to choose to eat. So with regards to what you, I don't have specifics for your question. So you're just saying like just general eating for when you're aging, or do you have a specific question? Because so then I'll just go down the list. So there's a lot of things you should think about when you age. Obviously, I say obviously, but it's obvious to me. But sometimes, like when you age, you're not able to absorb nutrition the way you typically absorbed it when you were younger. So sometimes you might have to get a supplement, or making sure, especially vitamin D is a huge concern, not just for elderly, but for all of us, but definitely for the elderly. That's really important. Just making sure, and again, different people are age in different ways, but just making sure you're getting the nutrition that's right for you is really important. I will say there is one of the activities that I talk about is making sure you're getting the amount of calories that is right for you, because eating too many calories can cause us to age faster. So you want to make sure, like if you're eating too many calories, and that activity will help you to see if you're eating way too many calories. You can kind of make sure that you're getting the amount that's right for you. And that's definitely something that's really slows the aging process. And I'm not for calorie counting. I qualify that every time I bring that. I do not believe in calorie counting. I don't think we know in the scientific community that we are over consuming. And so we have to be aware of how much we're putting into our body, and then comparing that with what is right for our body, and then matching that number up, right? So sometimes that might mean you have to eat a little less, but sometimes for some people that might mean you have to eat more. What's important is knowing what is right for your body and making sure your body, and then listening to your body. If you're eating too much, you might feel you're wondering why you're feeling sluggish. It might be because you're eating too many calories, or maybe because you're eating this specific food that just doesn't sit well with you. So yeah, there's a lot. I wish I had a more specific question, but there's a lot going in my head right now. But that's like a general overview.
I wanted to speak on the affordable part of her book, because you like the word.
I love it.
There are nonprofit organizations in Washington, D.C., such as Martin's Table,
yes,
such as the Share Foods program.
Right for the city.
Right for the city. So it is attainable.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. So section 4 of the book is specifically devoted to services that are available to you. And if you are not familiar with what's available in your community, um, you can go to your local food bank. And your local food bank will have lots of info. In this area, it's Capital Area Food Bank. They will have lots of information about Martha's Table. They partner with all these organizations. They provide food for a lot of these organizations. So, right. So, absolutely. Lots of resources are available for us.
Excuse me, we have a question in the back.
Okay, great.
Okay.
There's a lot of talk about vitamin D, lack of vitamin D. Can you talk about some foods that are good for providing vitamin D?
Great question. So we'll start with the food and then we'll talk about the non-food. So with food, you're going to get your vitamin D from your eggs. I know the egg prices are high, but per egg, they're still pretty low. If you look at it per egg, it's not as if I were to buy a pound of beef. I think it's a comparable price. So it's still not that bad. So you're going to get your vitamin D from eggs. Another thing I like to recommend that people consider for vitamin D is vitamin D fortified orange juice. Orange juice fortified with vitamin D and calcium. It should have the vitamin D and calcium because they work together to help you absorb that both nutrients better. Mushrooms are a really great all kinds of mushrooms. You're going to get it's a good source of vitamin D and all kinds of other things. Mushrooms are just fantastic. If you can incorporate those into your diet, please do. The non-food vitamin D options are, does anybody know? The sun, exactly, right? The sun. So 15 to 20 minutes of vitamin D, of sitting in the sun without suntan lotion, right? No suntan lotion. After that 20 minutes, you want to put the suntan lotion on because, of course, we know there are other effects to sitting in the sun too long. So yeah, so if you want to get your vitamin D, those are good ways to incorporate them.
Awesome.
And supplements. Supplements are really powerful. So you can do a supplement.
Okay.
About that. The eggs. Mushrooms are good for you don't eat eggs.
So if you don't eat eggs, if you're a vegan, you can do, again, the sun and then a supplement, right?
And having had the vitamin K,
Mhm.
is that important?
You don't necessarily have to have the vitamin K. It'll increase your capacity to absorb the vitamin D better, but you don't necessarily need it. Oh, I'm sorry. She asked about vitamin D and vitamin K being absorbed together. You don't necessarily need to have that vitamin K present for you to absorb or in a supplement per se, in order for you to absorb that vitamin D. So a supplement is good. The active forms a supplement with the active forms of vitamin D, I highly recommend, especially if you have any other chronic condition that you talk to your doctor about getting a recommended dose, because sometimes you can take too much vitamin D. So yeah, so you want to be careful of getting too high of a dose of vitamin D.
Now, it's told that we, as African Americans, we don't absorb it so well because of the melanin in our skin, and that's why we're pretty much depleted of it. I'm not depleted, but it's blowing us. Is that, have you?
Yes, that is a thing, because the melanin doesn't allow us to absorb the UV rays, which convert the color. So yes, the cholesterol in your body is converted to vitamin D via the UV rays from the sun. The melanin protects us from the UV rays, but at the same time, it doesn't allow us to convert the vitamin D over as well. It does work though. You do get some, but and it is worth doing sitting in the sun for the 20 minutes as I recommended. But again, going back to the supplements, a lot of, if you can get your blood work done, get your blood work done by your doctor, see if your vitamin D levels are okay, and then take a supplement if you need to.
Welcome. Great questions, you all.
Magnesium.
Magnesium as like a supplement or something like that. That is a very specific supplement that I wouldn't recommend just for anyone. If you have a specific condition, I would definitely have you work with your doctor or your dietitian before I would recommend that. But just in general, if you want to just get magnesium into your diet, you want to go for the bananas, the almonds, the nuts, the seeds. Those are all you're gonna be great sources of magnesium.
And that'll be enough because everybody focuses so much on getting the magnesium in you. So that'll be enough just from the foods.
You can definitely get it from the fruit. And I have a section in the book where you can go and you can look. There's a section that has all the nutrients and all foods that are in those nutrients. Or excuse me, all the foods that have those nutrients. So there's a section in there. You can look at the magnesium there.
Thank you. Appreciate your presentation so far. I have two quick questions. Earlier, you had mentioned the benefits of berries, or that was one of the three things you really recommend, and I was hoping you could illuminate on what the benefits are. And then a question around the topic of this moment is you talked about getting your blood work done, and I was curious, is like what that conversation is like with the doctor. Is that like a common thing to do when they do your health checkups yearly? And yeah, that was my question. I think one of the reasons I'm interested in that is I'm plant-based, have been for 11 years, and one of the questions people ask me, even my dad, is well, how are you going to get your protein or other things? And
yes,
we'll talk later, definitely. The thing is, like, I've not had an appointment to do that kind of work. I just like how I feel, and I feel good, and I feel my needs are met. So I was curious if you could talk about what that means to get your blood work done. Thank you.
Great question. Your doctor, when they do blood work, they're going to do vitamin D. I'm glad you brought that question up because there is a service. I actually just got it done. It's called, I highly recommend this. It's called Blueprint for Wellness. And it's called the Blueprint for Wellness. It's through Quest Diagnostics. And they have a program where you can actually get your blood work done for free. For free. You don't need a doctor recommendation or anything. They'll give you a nutrient panel or your blood panels. They'll check your cholesterol. It's 54 different parameters they're checking. And vitamin D is one of them. So you can see if your vitamin D is okay, is doing all well. If your vitamin D levels are okay. I believe there's an event coming up. I don't know when it is, but if you search it, you'll find it. And yes, it's a great resource. They'll send you a little packet that will tell you what your numbers mean and everything. Diagnostics Blueprint for Wellness. So if you're talking with your doctor, it's definitely gonna be when they do your blood work. I believe most doctors do your blood work yearly, which is a good amount of time unless you have some condition that requires you to get your blood work done more, but they will definitely cover that.
That was a great question, which leads me to feel. Now, with those the range for our blood work, are we in that specifically, or are we on a separate one? Because it seems like with us, a lot is different when it comes to medical.
Okay, so this is a very complicated question. I know exactly what you're getting at. To answer your question, yes, those numbers are relevant to us as Black people and people of African descent. There are certain instances, for example, your GFR, which is a measure of how well your kidneys are functioning. That's going to be different. You're going to see, I believe it says GFR-AA or African AF or something next to it, because they have a different measure for African Americans in kidney function, which is controversial right now, right? Like there's a debate on to as whether they should even be doing that. Is that discriminatory or not? So at the end of the day, it goes back to you listening to your body, and also like making sure that you're feeling optimally, you're not having any medical conditions, and staying away from that altogether. So I don't have to worry about AF being next to my GFR number and all of that, right? So
I have another question back here. The sister asked a question about the berries. What are the advantages of eating the berries? But also, I'd like to follow up. How much should you eat, like on a daily basis, of the berries?
Of berries, eat them all the time, every day. No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. It's very hard to eat too many berries because they don't have a lot of sugar. They have a lot of fiber, and they're just great. So as far as the benefits, are concerned, I don't know if you're familiar with your microbiome, but you have in your intestines, you have lots. I think your intestine is about 8 feet long altogether. I might be wrong. You have a lining of all kinds of like bacteria. You have good bacteria, and depending on what you're eating, you have bad bacteria. Berries are gonna help to make sure your microbiome is producing good bacteria, right? So one, good bacteria, which is great for metabolism, great for gut health. Has anybody ever heard of your gut being your second brain, right? It's connected to your brain. So if your gut is healthy, your entire body's gonna be healthy, right? Also, berries are, I just want to make sure I get all these benefits in. I'm glad you asked this question. Berries are also important for cancer prevention. They're filled with antioxidants, and they're just, I can't even tell you, there's study after study that shows that they're going to help prevent cancer. Another thing that berries are one of the only foods in the entire uh, food repertoire that we have that has been scientifically shown to prevent neurological disorders like dementia or Alzheimer's. So if you're eating those berries, you're decreasing your risk for Alzheimer's, dementia, and other neurological conditions. So tons of benefits. And the darker the berry,
Ow.
we know. What? I'm sorry. Crazy strawberries. Strawberries are amazing. Strawberries are one of up there. Like any like berry strawberries. You want to do organic strawberries if you can, because they are on. So I talked about the Clean 15. Strawberries are on the Dirty Dozen list, which means that they have more pesticides. But guess what? They still have the antioxidants. They still have the fiber. They still are good for you. Even unfortunately, I mean, you're going to get pesticides. The pest? No. She asked if cleaning the pesticide is going, or cleaning the berries with the vinegar will get rid of the pesticides, and that's more so like to prevent like pathogens, like little bacteria on there. The pesticides, not so much. So you definitely you're going to get the pesticides, but you get pesticides in the processed foods, right? So it's better to eat the foods that who's gonna offset the effects of the pesticides, right? Which the berries will. So that's why I say if you can't do the organic, go ahead. You're still gonna get the antioxidants. You're gonna get the fiber. You're gonna it's gonna do all of that.
Checking. Okay, cool. Sorry. Now, we are in the heart of Howard University, and I'm curious to know for college students who may only have access to campus food, what will be your recommendations for them outside of berries is your new candy?
Yes, I love that. Berries and sugar candy. So one, I spoke about food banks. Food banks are becoming prominent on college campuses now. I'm not food banks. Food pantries are becoming prominent on college campuses now. So I would say first say make sure see if your school has a food bank on campus. Um, if they don't have a food bank on campus, I encourage you to advocate for it. It's not too hard to get established, and you as a student are a very powerful voice, and it's so needed. And it will be very easy to garner support. So if you don't have that, I would say make sure you uh, advocate for that. Find out about it first, though, before you advocate for it, because you might already have it. Especially in this area. This area is great for that kind of thing. But if you don't have a food bank that is present, when you're in the dining hall, that's all you have access to. Then I'm going to go back to the affordable part of the book that you like. And I'm going to say vegetarian options are always, not always, but mostly cheaper. So I'm big on the beans and I'm big on the rice. I cannot tell you that again, like the berries, so many health benefits of beans. You're going to get again the fiber. I won't go into that because it's just so many. But like beans and rice, lentils, falafel, those types of things. Those are going to be maybe not so much the falafel, but definitely the beans and rice. So when you go to order that burrito, get it without the chicken, get it without the beef or whatever. That's going to save you a lot of money. Question?
So I have met Miss Africa at our university's Women's Expo, and that book that I bought from her, I sold that book to learn, and you know, you say each one teach one, spread the knowledge. Not only have I done that, but from what I read, my mind has become a sponge. And I have been sending her videos and pictures of me having garbanzo beans and shredded carrots, romaine lettuce and broccoli. You know, they say gumbo, but baby, I got the vegan gumbo.
Preach.
That's awesome testimony. Thank you.
Give her a hand. I love that. Right now. Right now.
I love it.
just in time for
Amazing. I know that's right. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Amazing job, Queen. Anyway, one other question. You brought up rice. Now, again, there's a misnomer about rice. Talk about the benefits of rice, and if you get specific types of rice.
So rice is it has a lot of carbohydrates. So I say beans with rice, but I want to focus more so on the beans part because rice has a lot of carbohydrates, and there are, there's some arsenic that you're going to find in there at very low levels. So you got to be careful. You want to be careful of that, of eating too much rice. So one of the things I talk about in the book is using alternatives to rice. One of them could be the millet we talked about earlier. Another one is quinoa. Quinoa is really, really great. A lot of people like to use couscous and they think it's so much healthier. Couscous is just like little balls of pasta. So I'm not a big couscous promoter as much as I am because with quinoa, the thing about quinoa is it's very affordable. You get one bag. It might seem expensive because one bag might be like $5 or $6 or something like that. But you get a lot of quinoa in that bag, like in that one bag. Cauliflower rice is amazing. But one thing I wanted to say about quinoa is that it's one of the, I believe it's the only plant-based complete protein of all the grains that are there. So you're going to get a full complete protein with the quinoa. Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about eating under pressure because you have a lot of meals and snack ideas in your book. What would you recommend to audience members when it comes to eating under pressure?
So, great question. To get back to what I was saying about mental health, one, what is driving your food choices? Are you dealing with the stress that's affecting your food choices? If not, read my book and follow the instructions in the book, right? Like that's one thing you can do is just really assess um, where you are in terms of stress. And there are specific things we can do about our stress. And then you'll see that it'll open your world up to you being able to have the mind to even choose a healthier choice. I'm sorry, what was the
No tips for eating under
Oh
pressure.
yes. So when doing the stress management, the other thing is making sure you're getting sleep. Good sleep. Because if you sleep better, it's going to help you again with the food choices that you choose, right? So that's huge. And I have a section in the book about how you can sleep, how you can get better sleep. I won't go into that now. Um, but and as far as like getting energy from your food, again, going back to what my original recommendation, drinking water, right? Instead of like these sugary drinks, right? Teas, green tea. Green tea is a great way to build your energy levels and a great way to just help to calm yourself. Herbal teas are really good. And the thing about tea is that, you know, I am a coffee drinker, but I wish I could drink tea, but I can't because of weird things going on. Talk about paying attention to your body. I saw how it affects my body, so I can't drink tea. But if you can drink the tea, it is a much better stimulant than coffee because it has way less caffeine and it's longer lasting. The caffeine it'll work fast and it'll be gone fast, right? But tea might work a little slower, but it'll last longer throughout the day. Snacking on fruits and vegetables throughout the day, great way to build energy and help you with just to calm you down. I know I do grapefruit, and my husband and I recently we've been cutting up our orange slices. And instead of eating them, peeling them, it just hits different. Can I just recommend slicing your oranges and just like and the energy boost that you get from that and how it makes you feel. And again, you get all the fiber and all of that from there. So yeah. So does that answer your question? Or?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
And
I would just like to reinforce what you're saying about paying attention to your mindset because gosh, my dad died a year ago and I had to be out in Vegas for a while, but that's where he lived. And man, I was stressing out and just eating all kind of stuff. By the time I got back home, I had gained 35 pounds. And I talked to and I was just feeling weird when I got back here. I was like, what the heck? I don't know what's going on with me. And I talked to my doctor and she said, you haven't taken the time out to really grieve your father. You haven't grieved him. And she says, she took my blood levels and all that kind of stuff. And I told her I know what's going on. Because now I've been a vegan all my life. But I told her I've been eating crackers, I've been eating all that junk, just chewing, and that's a stress reliever, that chewing, all them nuts, just chewing, and I told her, I said, I know what's wrong with me. I've been eating all this stuff I haven't eaten in years, and I gained all this weight, because I'm stressing out over my father's death. So the stress really, really affects you.
Yeah.
And you don't even know what's going on.
Self-care.
No,
right?
absolutely. I'm a licensed therapist. And honestly, when a lot of clients come to my office, they tell me what their presenting challenges are, whether it's stress, depression, anxiety. We get down to the nitty-gritty, but then I ask, what are you eating? They're like, why you asking that question? This therapy. But a lot of what you consume food-wise can have an impact on your mental health. And then my next question is, what are you doing with well, I'm just in the house chilling. What's chilling? Watching Netflix. Oh, I think we got some of the problems solved right now. So I can't stress that enough. Like, make sure you're into it. It's the mental health benefits as well, not just physical. But there's a gentleman in the back that has a question.
Your opinion on dried fruit, air fryers, and I substitute potato chips with raisins. Raisins are my I need to eat something, fun food.
Great question. So let me tackle the dried fruit first. Yes, I do give a thumbs up to dried fruit without added sugar. Okay, so I'm a big fan of instead of cookies or something like that, I do dried mango. So good. But even the dried mango without the sugar, it's still sweet and it's still concentrated. So you still want to be careful of how you, again, all the packages have the serving size. So if you do the dried fruits, pay attention to the serving sizes, particularly if you have something like diabetes or something like that. So yes, and my husband is a huge fan of raisins, so I understand I understand that. But yeah, and especially if you're using it as an alternative to cake or cookies or something like that. Yeah. And I'm sorry, what was your other? You have another? Oh, the air fryer. I have a little section in the book about the air fryers. So air fryers, I personally didn't have the best experience with them, but I know I have clients who live and die by the air fryer. Everything goes in the air fryer. So, and that is okay. They're good. They're a great alternative to, they're a great alternative to frying. Absolutely. Just prefer to bake. I like the outcome of baking better, and you can get some similar results to what you get in the air fryer and the oven. So, you don't have to pay that. What is it, $40 for the air fryer? So it's just basically up to you what you would prefer. But I do think it's a good alternative to especially like frying foods.
And you said dried fruit air fryer, and I think it was one more. Raisin.
Oh, yeah,
okay.
the raisins is
okay.
dried fruit. Yeah.
You can do a lot of that dried fruit and everything in that air. Yeah. I've been looking at the air fryer. Gosh, the crispy kale and all that stuff you like to crunch on. You can do all of that in the air fryer. I've done it. Stick some food in there and it dries it out, and that way you don't have to purchase it from stores that had already had sugar to it and things like that. You can do it right in the air fryer, real quick, and it's easy.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I love that. Yes.
Now, you tackled berries as a huge energy booster. What other foods would you recommend to boost energy?
The vegetables, so like cucumbers, fresh cucumbers, slices is one of my favorites. Grapefruit is a really great booster of energy. I'm trying to think of the other thing that popped into my head. Pomegranate. Okay, pomegranates are, yes, I could see that. There was something else that popped into my head and it just popped right out. I can't think of it now. But I would say carrot slices, just anything that's packed with, that has a lot of fiber and also has water in it, because that water, again, water is a really big, huge source of energy. You don't get calories from water, but it's really important for energy. So if you're eating foods that are high in energy, then I would definitely recommend or high water content. It's gonna give you that energy. So yeah, water, tea, high water content fruits and vegetables. Celery is another one. Watermelon is another good one. So yeah, those are good. Those are all good ones.
taking care of you. Can you tell me why that was important for you to include in the book?
So, as a dietitian, I often feel like we work in isolation in terms of our practice, which we studied food. So, yeah, we should talk about food. But as I was saying before, it's really important for us to see the factors that influence our food choices. Some of these factors are not even things that we contribute to ourselves. We're not responsible for them. For example, we have very easy access to very highly processed foods that when you go into the grocery store, you see it everywhere you go, and it's very tempting. And on top of them, marketing to us, putting it on the shelves, giving us easy access to it, it's also addictive once you start eating it. So you have so you have all these factors coming into play, and then we feel guilty because we made the choice. No, 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 no. I recommend, and so in that section where I talk about the work, one of the things is recognizing that it's not always your fault. And but there are certain things that you can do to help overcome that. And that's when I talk about doing the mental health work and making sure you're speaking healing words to yourself. And I have activities about that. You're doing stress management. You're also, the other thing I talk about is not being afraid to ask for help. I think a lot of us are afraid to ask for help. That's really powerful. Taking time to problem solve. I don't know about you guys, but before I had this revelation, I would have a problem. I would just think that there was nothing I could do about it. So I would just like let it be. It was like, no, there's actually something you can do about it. So taking time to figure out what it is. And I have an activity about how you can do that in the book as well. So just all those factors, I thought it was just really important to include that as opposed to just focusing on food.
I have a question back here, going back to the food groups. You were listing the cucumbers, the watermelon, and all of those. Can you speak to could you compare and contrast the seeded versus the unseeded and the benefits that each may offer?
In terms of fruits and
if you
vegetables?
go out, you'll see watermelon.
Oh, I thought you were going in a totally different direction. No, yeah, you definitely want to look for seeded. Those are, so you want to, ideally, if you can look for what we call heirloom varieties, that's what you want to go for. And you can, if unfortunately, you're not going to find that as much in your grocery store, but you will find the seeds. And I talk about gardening in the book as well. So if you want to do your own gardening, I don't have a garden, but I have a deck and I grow food on my deck. And so you can grow. It's not as hard as you might think it is. But yeah, when you go to farmers markets, if you go to farmers markets, they'll be able to give you information about like whether those are the heirloom varieties and that. But yes, seeds. If you can find something with seeds, go with the seeds because that means it hasn't been altered as much from its original form. Great question.
The Asian and Hispanic little grocery stores market, they have a lot of food, more natural food. They have more natural food, and there are a number of them in DC. So especially Columbia, Pleasant, and even in the suburbs now. So I would say, particularly for this area, you might have to go out the way, but there are alternatives for those kinds of organic or more organic foods.
Great point. Yes, absolutely.
Because where they are from, that's all they know. So why would you put poison into something that you don't know? You know what I'm saying? So if I'm from a place that grows papaya, I gotta eat papaya. My body's been eating papaya since I was born. If I'm from a place that eats mangoes, I gotta find the mango.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the right ones, like you're mentioning, because like you said, you can taste it. I travel a lot, and I could taste the difference between the fruit here and the fruit back home. My family's from Guyana, so it definitely is like you mentioned, it's definitely one, you're used to it, but two, you want the right kind. And I'm glad that you mentioned the markets around here. I'm gonna highlight the Caribbean market in Tacoma Park. So you want to go there?
I will caution that you still have to be careful even in those markets. So just again, like ask people who the produce folks, ask around to make sure you're getting the best quality.
Love it. So I love the piece of you overall emphasize the importance of implementation, even if it's small steps, right? Today, if you can go buy a bottle of water before leaving here and drink that before you get to the train station or your dorm, do that. Start small, be gradual, give yourself grace. And the 2 Gs, grace and gradual. Any last words of advice you would like to provide audience members with?
So I just want to encourage you, and I appreciate you for sharing your story, Ebony, because she is evidence that it is possible. It is possible. And I just, the entire reason for writing the book is that there are resources out there for you. There are things that you can do yourself to empower yourself. You do have the budget for your body, and that's, I don't care what any doctor tells you, I don't care what any other professional, even your dietitian, I don't care what I tell you. At the end of the day, listen to your body, and your body will speak to you. And just be empowered that you can do it, and that's it. So I'm going to categorize that as a fad diet. And I'm going to say that I don't subscribe to fad diets. I think that they work for some people over a certain period of time. For other people, it doesn't work. So I don't think there's any harm in trying that diet yourself, but as far as it being like a prescriptive thing that I would say definitely go ahead and move forward with that. I don't think there's enough research to show that this is like something that I would definitively define. At the end of the day, again, it goes back to you knowing your own body and seeing how your body responds to those specific foods. I think it can help you get there if you know your blood type and you find you're eating these specific foods and your body responds accordingly, then that can be a helpful guide. But as far as me saying like this is something to go ahead and, you know, believe in, I'm not necessarily there yet. I'm not convinced on the science.
Okay.
Are we good with time? I should say. Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure because I feel like I'm like, okay. He said 5 minutes. Okay. More questions?
Yes. You didn't speak about the food differences here in the States and say Europe and Africa. Could you speak on that?
Of course, lovely husband of mine. That's my husband. He, by the way, this book would not have been able to be written without him. So thank you very much. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. And to your point, you go to different countries, you're just going to taste the difference. We just came back from multiple countries in Africa, and the access to fresh food that we saw in that country, literally people just going to the market the day of and preparing the food that same day. Like literally every day, they would just go to the market, get the food, and then make it that same day. It was amazing, like just to see that happening, and to compare that to here in the United States, where like I said, what we have to go. We go to grocery stores once a month or once a week or once every other week. And the food that we get is highly processed. It's not this fresh things. I mean, when I tell you there were beans and nuts and seeds and everything you could think of, just freshly picked. And you can just go pick it up and grab it. And every miles and miles and miles of fresh food. So, I mean, you want to talk about advancements in medicine, we can learn from Africa and what they're doing over there in terms of their health. But yeah, you can taste the difference too. It's much fresher and it's grown in a more healthy way.
Do you have any questions in the? Nope. Okay.
Parking lot next door, they're about to lock it.
Yeah.
Chevy,
I am.
you have a Chevy car?
Yes.
Okay, they'll wait.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Oh, okay.
That's beautiful.
You sure? Okay. You're good. Just want to make sure.
But I just want to ask if you're talking about the processed foods. And, I mean, it hurt my feelings. I discovered that nuts, the almonds and everything, all that's processed. You know, it's all cleaned up and going through factories. I'm thinking you're getting fresh stuff, but it's all been processed and everything, and it hurt my feelings when I discovered that.
So she had a question about the.
Yeah, they are.
So she said, so her question is about the processing of the nuts. And what I have to say to that is the almonds. What I have to say to that is that there's different levels of processing. Some foods are processed because if they don't process them, then we won't be able to basically, like, we can't, well, we can cut them ourselves, but it's not as convenient, right? So if you want to get like a really unprocessed almond, you got to get the, I remember when we were kids and during Christmas time, we had the nutcrackers and we had to crack the nuts. So, however, when they, you know, remove those shells and they do the processing, you're still going to get the health benefits. You're still going to get the health benefits. You're still going to get the fiber. You're going to get the vitamin E, the healthy fats, and all of that. So, and the protein and all of that. So once you start getting past, like, you know, you start getting down to like things like flour, right? That's really highly processed. A lot of the nutrients are removed, so you want to stay away from that. There's a section in the book about that you can refer to.
I just discovered just last week that ginger is in the true root. That it's from some kind of enzyme. They can't find the real
source
origination of ginger.
Oh, yeah, that's true of a lot of our foods, unfortunately. Like, we don't know, like, where. I thought when you said root, I thought you were talking about a root in the ground. I was like, no, it's pretty sure it's a root vegetable. But it's, yeah.
They made up the ginger once I read it.
Okay. I got your point. Okay, so there's a difference between GMOs and the genetics, right? Like in cross-pollination, right? You're talking about cross-pollination. Like GMOs is when they literally go into the lab, they change the gene sequence and produce a different product. That's what we're not sure in terms of the safety about. So I do not recommend GMOs as much as possible, but if you do GMOs, it's fine. There's a section in the book about GMOs. Cross-pollination is a different beast. We know how our bodies respond to foods that have been cross-pollinated, i.e. ginger, right? So ginger is very good, even though it's been cross-pollinated, it's very good for us. And in fact, it's one of the best anti-inflammatory foods you can eat on the planet. And two of the things that I say that are responsible to our health and contributing to a healthy gut is inflammation and stress. So those two things contribute to a healthy gut and a healthy body. So if you can get rid of those, ginger is a good way to do that. A lot. No, I think it's our grocery stores are filled with, and it's okay. We know how we have years of research to show that it's okay to cross pollinate. Not the GMOs though. Yeah.
Okay. Do we have any more questions? Oh, do you have the mic? Oh.
I was just going to say, most of the fruit that is in grocery stores are designer fruits. Like most of the apples, like there's original apples in the United States. Like there were 250 different kinds of apples. So they created Fuji. They created stuff. The world base for bananas is just one strain of bananas that is about to be attacked by this virus, and they got to figure out another strain that won't be susceptible to this virus. So I guess the point is, man has always been creating stuff that didn't exist, naturally, but it wasn't through the lab. It was through cross pollination. You splice this, you hook this, and stuff like that. And they do it for flavor. They do it for resistance to da 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 da. So I'm saying that we wouldn't be alive because they've been doing this for millennia. For all kinds of foods.
Absolutely. And the advent of agriculture, right? My husband and I were talking about this not too long ago. Like that our food supply just totally changed when agriculture became what it is over the past hundreds of years. So yeah, exactly. Like so absolutely. That's why if you can do the non-GMO, I highly recommend non-GMO because cross-pollination is different from splicing. Those are two different things. The GMO is we haven't studied that enough. We just don't have enough information. They're trying to put it out there as if it's safe, but I'm not convinced. And most dietitians that I know will not recommend it as something to believe that it's a healthy food product because we just don't know at this point. And I will say this because I think this is relevant to that. Has anybody ever heard of trans fat? Margarine? Okay, remember that point in our history where we were eating butter and everybody was eating butter and then they were like, no, eat margarine. It's better for your heart. It's heart healthy. Do we ever remember that moment in time? Well, when they switched over from butter and they were promoting margarine, they were promoting what's called trans fats, which are factory made fats, right? 20 years later, they find out that the trans fats are worse for our hearts than the butter, right? And so same with artificial sweeteners. People think that they're so much better for your diabetes and they help to lose weight. Actually, that's not true. They help you to lose weight. That's not true at all. And so we have this history in our country of making these concoctions in the factory, right? And saying these are good for us, only to find out 20 years later that they're worse than what their original the original thing they were trying to replace. Same with GMOs. It's a sad scenario. I talk about that in the book as well. So thank you for bringing that up.
I just want to say I recently been having something, not margarine, not butter, but something called oat butter.
I don't think I've heard of oat butter.
For me,
what I would say to anything that's new on the market, going back to my reading the ingredients list, if it has ingredients on there that you're not familiar with, you don't know what's in there. So just proceed with caution. I don't think I've heard of oat butter. I would have to look at what's in there. Yes. Oh, like peanut butter, oat butter. Oh, so it's just like ground.
It's like
I was thinking like
alternative for actual butter. Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, but still, it's still the same thing. I would say, look at. Yeah, look at the ingredients. So ghee is good. It still has a lot of saturated fat. So I'm not anti butter. I think that it's okay to eat a little bit of butter. I talk about saturated fats in the book and how like there's a certain amount of saturated fat that is okay to eat. Once you go above that, it's just you're increasing your risk for heart disease. So ghee, it's a clarified butter. It's a little bit healthier. So yeah, I recommend ghee, even though it has a higher, it's a much richer and more buttery kind of. It is very good. It is very good. Yeah. So just again in moderation.
GMO, and I mean, is a seedless lemon GMO? It's
Let me say this about GMOs. There are very few fruits and vegetables that have been genetically modified that are on the market. Um, I have a list of them, the ones that are genetically modified in the book that are published. The list is published by the USDA, I believe. Um, so lemons is not on there. And the reason why GMOs are so prevalent in our society is because the foods that are genetically modified are the foods that we eat that are in a lot of our processed foods. So corn, for example, high fructose corn syrup is everywhere you go. If you look at the back of your canola oil, those types of things you're going to get from, it's just everywhere, right? Soy is another genetically modified product. So it's prominent everywhere in processed foods, but it's not necessarily in a lot of our fruits and vegetables are not genetically modified. Thank God.
Oh, you know what? One other thing, too, talking about the ingredients list. Now, my MD one time had a meeting with all of she had a meeting with all of us, all of her patients, and even just vitamin supplements. She had us going through the supplement ingredients, and we saw that a lot of the supplements didn't even have the vitamin D that much in it, and it had so many additives. And she was telling us, stop buying that stuff off the shelf. Stop buying it because you're not getting any vitamins.
Great
And
question.
and another thing, just to address, my dentist told me once, stop buying mouthwash, stop buying that toothpaste. He said, take some tea tree oil and some baking soda and mix it up and brush your teeth. And he said the tea tree oil kills the germs in your mouth. He told me brush at night. And I said, well, then do I get up and brush again in the morning? He said, you won't have to. He says, because at nighttime, your gums and all the germs are being still in your mouth while you're asleep, tearing up your teeth and everything. He says, use the tea tree oil and the baking soda, brush your teeth and everything. And I was so surprised my doctor and dentist, they're telling me these things. So speak on that.
So I can't speak on the tea tree oil. I don't know what that is. I can speak on the supplements though. So in general, there's a lot of research around the benefits of just like taking a multivitamins. Yes, you want to make sure that multivitamin has what your specific needs are. But the research out there on supplements is that doesn't necessarily hurt, but it also doesn't really help either, unless you have some type of deficiency, right? So if you have a vitamin D deficiency or vitamin A, whatever your deficiency is, if you take potassium or whatever to replenish that, that's going to help you. But in general, for the average person who doesn't have any deficiencies, you don't necessarily need supplements, especially if you're getting it through the food. But it doesn't hurt either. If you want to just make sure you're getting that extra assurance, go for it. And you got the extra cash, but most of us don't have extra cash like that. So
I actually want to piggyback off of what you said. I love that your doctor was intentional about getting you all together and really explaining. Yeah, is it Dr. Davison? Okay. Sorry, Dr. Tice, I gotta look her up. But it's so important for you to get a care team that actually cares about you. So if you want to go down that path, I know you mentioned Quest Health has the blood. Quest Diagnostics has the blood work that you could do on your own without a referral. If you're going down the primary care way, make sure you have all providers that actually give a crap about you. It's so hard to find, but they are out there. And you really want a good team such as yours that is going to tell you, hey, no, take this alternative. You don't have to do that. You don't have to feed yourself all these medications. You can get it through your food. You can get it through sunlight. You can get it through so many different other avenues. So definitely make sure you have strong, supportive healthcare professionals in your corner.
Great point, and I agree wholeheartedly. There's actually was a woman here, physician here, who wrote a book about empowering yourself when you go to the doctor. I don't know if one of the staff here can bring up that title, but I thought it was a really good
how
book.
to let your doctor help you.
Yes,
By
thank
Dr.
you.
Rebecca
Yeah,
Hall.
it's so if you're interested, I recommend that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions? Should we wrap?
I think we have one more here.
Oh,
I stopped eating red meat my senior in college, late 70s. I fast once a week. I've been fasting once a week since 1987 because I read Dick Gregory's book. I read a lot of stuff, and even though I was in engineering school, I used to read people's who School of Human Ecology. They had nutrition courses, and I read books and learned about the 27 essential amino acids. Da 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 da. Food is political, right? And it's been used to kill black people all over the world. What what structural things that black people need to do within their own households and with their own community, churches, associations, stuff like that. What kind of things do we need to inculcate within our own practices to achieve the best outcomes in those areas? Because it's, many of us have done these things on individual level, but when your child's school serves you sodas and processed food and things like that, even though you at home may try to encourage and practice better alternatives, the majority of black people are still being subjected to basically the most inexpensive food they can get the quickest, that's closest to them to get. Like this McDonald's down the street that's open 24 hours. And all these Howard students just go there and I shake my head. I said, because they're not being taught the essential things that they need to know to be able to be a fully functioning person.
great points and great questions. So there's so much going through my mind right now regarding your questions. The first thing I'll say is I'm a big proponent of growing your own food and community garden. So, and because I think not that that's going to solve our problems, because the capacity is limited for many of us in terms of how much we can grow. But I think it creates an environment where people can discuss healthy foods and discuss what we can do as a community to improve our health, right? Like I used to work for an organization where all we did was grow gardens in the community, and all we did was talk about healthy eating. And we had events right in the community, and we had community members who tended to these beautiful big gardens, and we got other community members who came and participated in the gardening, and they learned about organic foods and growing their own foods and the importance of healthy foods, and so through that, I think it was powerful to be able to show. We talked about affordable, right? But we also didn't talk about how tasty the food can be. So, like showing people, giving people examples through these community gardens, like how delicious this food actually is. I remember I made this salad with like a homemade salad dressing with a bunch of teenagers, and they were like, oh, this is so good. I didn't know you can make your own salad dressing. Like they thought it just magically appeared in a bottle or something. And so like just the more we can do that type of thing to educate people, I think the more power we can take to our own hands. I know it's a smaller solution because the bigger problem is systematic. Thank you, and it's so much bigger than we as individuals have the capacity to take on. But I think with this current movement of what's going on in the country, I do hear a lot of conversations about us coming together as people, supporting our own work and what we do in circulating dollars within our community so that we can build ourselves up and become a stronger power base to be able to tackle these types of issues, not just this issue, but multiple issues, prison industrial complex, all these things. So, but I think it starts somewhere, specifically with food. I think community gardens are really powerful. So, yeah.
Also, start them out young. Like, people really underestimate how intelligent children are. Like, they are so intelligent. If you share what's that McDonald's documentary? What is it, Supersize? There we go. That was really big during my time. But if you show a 4-year-old that, I know for my niece, it was given no, no ma'am, no man. Now we got to get her out of Chick-fil-A. So we're working on that. But start them young, educate them, show them the real of everything. Like, start them out young so they could start to build those skill sets, so they could start to look at the ingredients, so they can know, oh, this isn't healthy. Or I love what you said as far as, if I don't recognize this on the ingredients list, I don't need to get it. Because my body, kids, my body's gonna explode or something. I don't know. But really truly start them out young. That would be also, I'll add to that piece.
I love that because I cannot tell you the number of times the parents would, when I worked in the schools, the parents would complain to me and they would be like, why are you telling our children to eat certain things? They're coming home and telling me what I shouldn't eat. And I'm like, I never said you can't eat it. I'm just saying eat it in moderation. But yeah, they do have an influence in the house for sure.
Those lunchables that my 3-year-old students like to bring every day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. And just a thing with that too, it's keeping some balance in it, because I raised my son a vegan. Yeah. But when he became a teenager and got out here alone, Mom, I got to talk to you. I tasted chicken. I like it. Mom, I had a hamburger. I like it. So you got to you got to keep the balance with it, too, because they want to go out and explore.
And that goes back to what we talked about, grace, right? Like giving ourselves grace. Like, it's okay to give yourself permission to eat something that may not be optimal, and especially if you don't have that choice, but just get back on track. It's okay.
And he offers this to me now at 30 years old. I need to get back and eat better.
Yeah.
Just get back on track.
Honestly, funny
back
story.
on the track.
My dad, for the majority of my life, told me I was allergic to ham. Never was allergic to ham. I found that out when I was 18. Similar to your son, ate my first hamburger. It was lit. So then, I'm off it now. I think I told you I don't eat red meat no more. But yeah, my thing was, what is my body after a certain point? Like, and then you start to do the research and you start to read, and it's like, yeah, no, I do want to live longer. I do want to live long enough to see this person grow up. I do want to live long enough to experience this, to do this. So that's also a big motivating factor. And I think you mentioned it before when you talk about cancer and how much of the food can contribute to that. For me, also was a huge scare for me to change my diet. Now, am I 100% perfect? Absolutely not, which is why I love in the book that you identify grays. However, I still have the motivation to do better. And encouraging also facts, especially I think you said your son's 30. So throw the facts his way, especially as a Black man. Like, so that part will be, I'm hoping that will be effective. It was for me, but
anything about the meats and how they're processed now. When I started seeing what they pump into chickens and all that kind of stuff, you mentioning it.
I don't go into the specifics, but I do talk about meats. I don't do the processing, go into that.
Yeah.
There are other books that you'll get lots of good details about that.
And there are also great documentaries on Netflix. I wish I had the names of them, but there are a lot that will literally make you. I don't. It's like it's cringy. Like it will definitely discourage you from eating any type of meat for the most part when you see how they're produced and also the conditions they're in. Yeah.
Do you do couples therapy?
Who me?
No, well, around food.
Oh.
No, I never heard of that, but I mean, but that's a good idea. I mean, if two people wanted to see me at once, I could do that.
Because just like with other deal breakers, especially, I mean, that's something people need to talk about. How you're going to raise your children, right?
Yeah.
Right? Because among a lot of things, that could be a deal breaker, and I think should be a deal breaker. There needs to be some kind of consensus about what parents, particularly Black parents, are going to feed their children, not only physically but mentally, spiritually, everywhere else. Because we are in a cesspool of corporate capitalistic, racist stuff, and we're eating it. We're consuming it on all levels every day, like you were saying. We got to be really intentional. That's what I'm saying.
Got you.
Agreed. I think it's really important to recognize that we are fighting this bigger system.
Yeah.
And we have to be intentional about our efforts individually and as a community. So I agree.
And I will say one last thing because we got time for one more question. Not really. Perfect. All right. Ready. But I would say this as far as your point when it comes to raising kids and you want to be in a cohesive unit, pay attention to the red flags while y'all dating. Don't overlook them. This is coming from like I see that all the time in my couples counseling session. If you knew she didn't want to raise her kids eating healthy, why are you with her? So please don't overlook these red flags that are literally slapping y'all, not you per se, generalizing, but slapping people in the face. That comes up so many times, and you could save yourself such the biggest headache. Just start to really hone in on those red flags. If you know them, walk a different direction. Hop, jump, skip, do what you need to do. Go away from them. But your last question.
Not a question, mostly a statement. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. My husband and I, we were tardy, but we were determined to hear what we heard. In my household, I'm the more healthy eating person, and so I'm looking forward to reading the book, because a lot of the things that I sneak on them, they didn't know they liked, and I'm like, well, guess what this is? And I'm like, I don't like onions, but you do. And I have a tribe that I frequently meet with for eating, and she had kale and nutritional yeast and things in it, and I'm like standing there over the pot just eating, and I'm like, oh girl, this is good. What you got in here? The other day was couscous, ginger, and lemon, and I was tearing it up, and I was like, my kids would like this. And you're just surprised at what is the not knowing how to combine the different things. And then you're thinking, oh, this is probably hard. And she's like, no, you just grate it. And you don't have to cook it, or you just warm it. And so, yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to, little things. We're going to eat the elephant one bite at a time.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Let's give it up for Mrs. Renee Afryka.
Thank you all for coming out. I appreciate it.
Thank you all for coming out. If you'd like to purchase a copy of the book, we have it available at the back on the counter. And afterwards, we can start with our book signing. Thank you all so much.
I feel like